phrase, what was it? I wrote it down here. Handmaiden to the patriarchy, which I think she means she's bashing Monica Lewinsky. I'm not sure. But this only is appealing to an ever shrinking circle of feminist women, the same who bow to the altar of trans men and keep silent when real women are victimized by really bad men. But again, it's another assigned opinion that's lazily presented, men against women. Whether it's race or gender, as long as you pit one group against the other, they won't look up at you. And this is how the Democrat Party survives, is they want everybody to fight each other over their specific group.
What happens when the queen of political plot twists slams head-on into the king of late-night chaos? Grab your popcorn, because Greg Gutfeld just turned Hillary Clinton's carefully polished image into a full-blown demolition derby. Picture a debate stage colliding with a comedy roast, then toss in a blender overflowing with sarcasm. That's exactly what went down. And the fallout? Absolutely outrageous. You won't believe how Hillary reacted. Buckle up. This political meltdown isn't just wild. It's one for the history books.
Oh, we're going to ride through the show with it. Hillary Clinton has never understood a Republican woman like me, and she's clearly not trying to change that pattern of behavior whatsoever. She doubles down on this, talking about the patriarchy and not bending the knee, and the nuclear family, and how that's such an
Hillary Clinton has always carried herself like the ultimate polished political veteran. Decades in Washington, countless titles, and a resume longer than a CVS receipt. She practically radiates that untouchable aura that says, I've been through the mud and somehow came out cleaner than you. But then along comes Greg Gutfeld, a man who doesn't buy the political perfume act. He spots the mud, points at it, and makes sure everyone in the room is laughing at it too. In this collision, Hillary's carefully crafted seriousness crashes headfirst into Gutfeld's late-night wrecking ball of sarcasm, and the sparks aren't pretty.
She thinks it's virtuous to have the entire third world in Latin America break through the border right before their water breaks and then have a baby at an American hospital without health insurance and then just raise the kid in a hotel room in Midtown while we pay for it? Absolutely not. We want more babies. Everybody wants more babies, because if you don't have them, it's basic arithmetic, Katie. You go bankrupt first and then the civilization collapses. And all the policies the lefts are pushing is contributing to the decline of...
Enjoying this video? Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, because that's the thing about Hillary. Her entire persona has always been about control. Control the narrative. Control the room. Control every syllable of the conversation. She speaks like she's briefing the United Nations, even when she's just ordering a sandwich. Everything feels scripted, tested, and coated in layers of political Teflon. But that's exactly what makes someone like Gutfeld so dangerous. He doesn't show up with a sledgehammer, he shows up with a clown horn. And a clown horn can pop a balloon faster than any knife, because it makes the whole thing look ridiculous while it explodes.
In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
The trigger moment was almost too perfect. Hillary stepped back into the spotlight, offering her take on modern politics and polishing her own legacy, like the ghost of elections past whispering wisdom into America's ear. But Gutfeld didn't hear wisdom. He saw contradictions dressed up as expertise. This was the same politician who oversaw disasters like Libya, whose private email scandal became a meme factory, and whose 2016 campaign somehow lost to a man rage tweeting at 3 a.m., like he was troubleshooting his Wi-Fi.
For Biden starts to widen. Is it time to pillory Hillary? She's already begun the charm offensive.
Well, let me answer one of your questions, because I think that's what you are entitled to. Well, let me answer one of your questions, because I think that's what you are entitled to. 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 That's what you are entitled to.
Well, maybe not charming, but offensive. It's panic in a pantsuit as the coronation turns to annihilation as Benghazi binds to her like stick 'em on Lester Hayes.
And that's the real beauty of comedy. It never needs citations or footnotes. Gutfeld only had to spotlight the absurdity, and suddenly Hillary's mighty political fortress looked more like a sandcastle crumbling under high tide. He painted her foreign policy as a Jenga match played with sticks of dynamite. Her email scandal, the political equivalent of misplacing your Netflix password, then loudly insisting that Russia hacked your account. And her 2016 campaign loss, like showing up to a marathon fully equipped with map, shoes, and water, only to faceplant on the starting line. The roast hit hard because it wasn't hollow name calling, it was ridicule backed by receipts. Viewers connected remembering the scandals, the debates, the endless news cycles. Hillary's greatest weakness has never been policy or power, it's punchlines. Politicians can spin, deny, deflect, and hide behind press conferences or opinion pieces, but there's no counterpunch for genuine laughter. Once the crowd laughs at you, you stop being feared, you stop being respected, you become a walking setup for someone else's late-night joke. And that's exactly where Gutfeld drove the nail, straight through the armor she spent decades polishing.
New study claims that oral sex may lead to dementia. Well, my husband has nothing to worry about, said one woman.
It's a hell of a trade-off.
Yeah.
Imagine spending decades meticulously crafting your image as the sharp, serious, and battle-hardened political veteran, only to watch it all unravel thanks to jokes about email servers and spectacular campaign flops. That kind of takedown isn't something an investigation or a rival candidate could ever deliver. Comedy doesn't just sting, it festers, it echoes. It shows up in memes, TikToks, late-night monologues, and casual conversations at dinner tables. Suddenly, the image of the Iron Lady of politics gets replaced with the caricature of a punchline. And the timing couldn't be worse. Hillary has been working overtime to maintain relevance, sprinkling her commentary into every election cycle like seasoning nobody asked for but keeps getting anyway. In the comedic retelling, she didn't just lose, she lost because she treated the campaign like a coronation parade. She entered with every advantage: deep pockets, unmatched name recognition, an entrenched political machine, yet got steamrolled by rallies that looked like rock concerts and tweets fired off in all caps at ungodly hours. Comedy reframes her defeat, not as a Shakespearean tragedy, but as pure political slapstick. And once you see it that way, there's no going back.
And, they're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing
baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it, and it starts causing some real damage.
But on the bright side, Hillary didn't kill you.
No lies detected. Fact check true. You're an enemy of Hillary Clinton and you're still alive? Well, that's a...
Foreign policy. Same story. The official line calls it complicated global strategy. The comedic line? A choose-your-own-adventure book where every ending is chaos. The Libya intervention? Oops, we knocked over one domino, and suddenly the entire table's on fire. The Russian reset button, like rebooting an old Dell computer with a hammer. Comedy has a way of compressing complexity into imagery, so absurd it sticks harder than any white paper ever could. Then there's the email scandal. To her defenders, it was boring bureaucratic nonsense, blown wildly out of proportion. To comedians, it was the gift that wouldn't stop giving. And when the cracks finally showed, the destruction was absolute. Gutfeld didn't just poke fun, he stripped away the carefully manufactured aura. Hillary stopped looking like a calculating stateswoman and started looking like the star of her own political blooper reel. And that's why it landed so hard, because it felt earned. The laughter wasn't cheap or forced. It was the payoff to years of contradictions, finally catching up in the form of a punchline. The deeper brilliance. It shows where politics lives now. We're in an era where politicians give flawless speeches, stage-managed interviews, and sanitized talking points, but a single joke can bulldoze it all.
I have to admit I'm a little obsessed with the Hillary Clinton detail. I have no idea if it's true or not, but the idea that they had to sedate her because she was having these bouts of violent anger and cheerfulness. So the anger actually kind of works, right? That makes sense. That tracks for Hillary Clinton.
People are exhausted with the scripted monologues and polished lines. They don't crave another carefully crafted narrative. They want honesty. Even if it's brutal, even if it's dripping with sarcasm. And comedy delivers that honesty. It slices through political jargon with a single punchline that says what everyone's been thinking but no one has said out loud. Hillary's downfall wasn't policy, it was perception. Once people see you as laughable, there's no press release, no book tour, no carefully staged late-night appearance that can erase it. The image sticks like glue, and Gutfeld made sure it went everywhere. The irony is staggering. Hillary walked out of congressional hearings, FBI investigations, and vicious media cycles intact. But one comedian with a sharp tongue did more lasting damage than all of that combined. Because investigations end, scandals fade, but memes never die. Her greatest weapon was always her seriousness. But seriousness only works if people still take you seriously. Gutfeld didn't attack her with fury, he dismantled her with mockery. And in that moment, she wasn't the heavyweight political figure anymore. She was just the setup to a joke, and the punchline hit harder than any scandal ever could.
Political equivalent of marginal royalty from a forgotten European country, smugly entitled, but no one cares. Her crimes: 1, she mistook the cause of terror, blaming Benghazi on a video, seeking a scapegoat instead of assuming responsibility. 2, she treated classified info the way her husband treats women, casually disposable. In this age when there's no monopoly on mayhem, we need careful, not careless. 3, she put personal privacy before public security. The way Bill used the Secret Service, she used the Secret Server, both to create a wall between prying eyes. So, no surprise, in a new poll, when Americans are asked what word best describes her, they scream liar, followed by dishonest, then untrustworthy.
The fallout goes far beyond Hillary herself. It's about how people view politicians as a whole. Once laughter enters the equation, the mystique of power vanishes. Politicians stop being towering, untouchable figures and start looking like characters in an endless comedy sketch. And the audience always prefers the comedy version because it feels honest, digestible, and infinitely more entertaining. The lesson is harsh but unmistakable. You can survive scandal, but you can't survive becoming a meme. Hillary's carefully constructed legacy, decades in the making, now risks being remembered less for her achievements and more for being the politician who got roasted into irrelevance by a late-night comic. Comedy leaves scars that never fade. You can polish speeches, rewrite history, spin endless narratives, but you can't erase the punchline. And for all her power, Hillary couldn't outrun the laughter. That's the true destruction. What makes it stranger is how easily preventable it was. If she'd leaned into the jokes, laughed at herself, maybe even mocked her own scandals, she could have disarmed them. Instead, she treated every wisecrack like a subpoena. You could practically see her glare harden the moment a punchline hit. And that reaction only gave comedians fresh ammunition, because nothing screams, "Please roast me again," louder than acting too serious to laugh.
Half of registered voters said any Republican would be better than President Biden, prompting one woman to legally change her name to NE Republican.
It's almost poetic. Hillary spent her entire career forging armor out of seriousness, yet that armor turned out to be a comedy magnet. Think about it. She wanted respect, fear, admiration. Instead, she became the politician most easily reduced to a smirk and an exaggerated eye roll. You don't need policy papers, research studies, or think tank panels to take her down. All it takes is a sarcastic jab about servers, scandals, or that infamous election loss. When Gutfeld trained his spotlight on her, it was like flipping over a stone in the backyard. Suddenly, all the contradictions and ironies came crawling into view. People listened not because he unearthed some explosive dossier, but because he wrapped her flaws in laughter, and laughter spreads like wildfire. Politicians dream of controlling their narrative, but humor doesn't ask for permission. Once a joke lands, no official statement or carefully worded footnote can erase it. Nobody remembers the explanation, they remember the punchline. And really, Hillary is the perfect foil for someone like Gutfeld. She's polished, cautious, and perpetually rehearsed. He's chaotic, sarcastic, and thrives on tearing down the polished facade until nothing but the raw truth and the laugh remains.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
That's what makes this takedown so fascinating. It wasn't just about Hillary, it was about exposing the entire game politicians play. Every talking point, every perfectly rehearsed media appearance, every desperate bid to stay relevant is soaked in strategy. But the second comedy steps in, that strategy crumbles to dust. Jokes don't care about carefully crafted messaging. They don't care about subtle phrasing or decades of reputation building. They slice through it all, shrinking the grand narrative into a single one-liner people gleefully repeat at the office water cooler. That's where the damage becomes permanent. Hillary can argue policy until the end of time. She can debate, explain, spin, and reframe. But once a punchline lands, it swallows the explanation whole. People don't repeat the nuanced argument, they repeat the joke. That's why political humor is so lethal, it sticks in the collective brain like a jingle you can't turn off. And Hillary isn't even alone in this fate. Plenty of politicians have been flattened not by policy disasters, but by becoming living punchlines. In her case, though, it's almost poetic, because she spent her entire career insisting she was untouchable. She was the serious one, the experienced one, the inevitable one. Yet inevitability worked against her, the inevitability of comedy. You can outrun scandal, you can sidestep blame, but you can't outrun a punchline. What makes it even juicier is the ripple effect. When a towering figure like Hillary gets roasted into oblivion, it reshapes how people view every other politician, too.
Trend. To Americans, she's less dependable than your cable guy. Meanwhile, as she implodes, Biden basks, a white knight with whitened teeth. But as nice as Joe is, it reveals the sober truth. No one wants Hillary. Look at the other options. Sanders, Warren, Jerry Brown. It's a line of loony leftists who recast past horribles as progressive solutions. And so Hillary ratchets up the rhetoric.
Extreme views about women, we expect that from some of the terrorist groups, but it's a little hard to take coming from Republicans who want to be the president of the United States. I know that there are some on the other side who are seriously advocating to deport 11, 12 million people who are working here and literally pull people out of their homes and their workplaces, round them up, put them, I don't know, in buses, boxcars.
Boxcars. So Republicans are not just terrorists, but also Nazis. I guess she forgot to mention pedophiles, but maybe she can tweet.
And the more she tries to climb back up, the more ridiculous, and yes, comedic, the fall becomes. Here's the real kicker. History won't remember the policy briefs or the painstakingly crafted speeches. Nobody's quoting white papers at the dinner table. They'll remember the jokes. They'll remember the smirk. They'll remember the roast that peeled away decades of cultivated seriousness in a single night. That's how comedy rewrites history, not with footnotes or facts, but with laughter that clings like glue. So while Hillary may keep speaking, writing, campaigning, and pleading her case, the uncomfortable truth is that the case is already closed. Not by politicians, not by pundits, closed by comedians. Greg Gutfeld stamped that final seal with sarcasm sharp enough to slice through decades of political armor. And that's the real destruction, not just of one politician's image, but of the belief that sheer seriousness can shield you in an era where laughter doesn't just rule the room, it rewrites the record.